Hey everyone, Teen Author Noah Barfield here, and this will be the final video I'll be making on multiple different perspectives. Now I've already introduced multiple different perspectives, what they are, how you decide between all of them, as well as covering multiple different perspectives from the first person and third person limited points of view. So in this video, I'll be covering how you create distinct voices whenever you have multiple different characters vying for attention in the same spotlight. But Noah, you've done first person and third person limited. Doesn't it make sense to do third person omniscient instead? Think about it, it'd be great, you'd have a big world, lots of characters, grand adventure, epic quests, it would be fantastic. Yes, it probably would, it'd probably be really extraordinary. But the thing is, multiple different perspectives is already the bread and butter of third person omniscient. If you're writing from the third person omniscient point of view, you're already doing all of the third person omniscient multiple different perspective things. You constantly have this all-knowing narrator invading the thoughts and minds of countless characters to bring you this amazing story, and you don't really have the same limitations. Additionally, knowing how to create distinct character voices is incredibly important no matter what genre or point of view you're working in, and the more characters you have, trust me, the more important this is gonna get. So I'll be giving you some tips and points on how I get into the mindset of creating distinct voices for multiple different characters, and also how I actually go about writing that. So first thing that really helps me get into the mindset is I stop thinking of them as characters and I start thinking of my characters as people. And no, I don't mean hallucinate them, that does not help nearly as much as you think it would. This used to be a real issue for me, creating distinct voices between characters, because I like to write in the first person. And whenever I was planning out Legendland and writing it in the very beginning, I had to create all these distinct characters with very unique separate voices, and I really struggled at it because I was like, I'm only one person, there's only one me. How can I do so many different people, so many different voices, whenever I can't split myself up and mentally fracture myself? Well, I stopped thinking of my characters as characters, and I started thinking of them as people. I don't make character sheets for my characters, or do any of that stuff that a lot of writers recommend, because I like to get to know my characters intimately and personally. I don't make character sheets for people that I know and really like to hang out with. I just start to get all of this knowledge about them, and that's what I do with my characters. And I start thinking, alright, like, what would my main character Mr. E do in this situation? Or what would my other main character Scarlet do? What would she like to use in this situation? How would she see that person? How would Mr. E react to technology? What's Mr. E's word usage? How does Scarlet's vocabulary differ from that? What's all of these different things? And I just start to get to know them as people, and I get to know them on an intimate personal level, and this really helps you write them as relatable characters. Now, secondly, it's really important to know all the details of your characters. Even if you're not going to include that your character really likes lasagna because they're Garfield apparently, it's still important to know the details about these characters, even if your reader's never going to know them. Again, it lets you know your characters very intimately, so you can write them as relatable characters, and the little details matter. For instance, whenever I was writing a scene in the very beginning of Legendland with Scarlet, Scarlet is a recurring amnesiac, and so she kind of freaks out how she doesn't really know a lot of stuff. Like, she knows what the color orange is, but doesn't know her own favorite color. So she's very frazzled about it, and she's like, why don't I have the mind of a baby? Why do I know what a baby is, but I don't know what anything else is? And she starts really freaking out. Well, Mr. E knows a lot of stuff, and so wouldn't freak out. But in that situation, even if Mr. E would freak out, he would not use the word baby. He would use the word infant. And it's like, oh, well, that's just one word. Yes, but it's one word of difference. And that is how you started. You started with small little details that slowly separate your characters out. The more characters you have in your story, the more important the details of each one are going to become. And they're really going to start developing these iconic traits that your readers are going to look for. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but I have all these details. I have all of these amazing details for so many of my characters, but won't my story get crammed if I start trying to shove the details in there? Yeah, it probably will, which is why it's important to show and not tell the details of your characters and their iconic traits and voices. And I know you're thinking, but showing and not telling is the most generic writer advice I receive on a regular basis all the time. Everyone tells me to do this and I still don't know what it means. Well, showing and not telling is really useful for a lot of different things, which is why you're probably told to do it a lot by writers of all walks of life. But in this instance, I mean showing and not telling the details. You can double up on the functions of your scenes and your details, because it's really important to manage very carefully whenever you have multiple different characters. Meaning that, yeah, you can make an entire scene saying that your character doesn't like pizza and they like curry instead because they're weird. But why do that whenever you can have a scene where they come back from a really hard mission and someone offers them a slice of pizza and they don't want it and they say, mumbling, that they like curry, and then later their romantic interest comes and makes them curry and it's a bonding moment. See, then you double it up and you propel so many different storylines at once. So not only can doubling up be really helpful, but it also makes it easier to show and not tell, because whenever you're already micromanaging how each detail is going to be coming into your story, it's important to remember that not every single thing is going to be able to be included in your story. But the more that you can include, the more your characters are going to show their iconic traits. However, it's important to show and not tell these things. For instance, you don't need to come right out and say, "Oh, I hate jazz music." No, that's not what someone wants to read, especially if they like jazz music. But maybe they're in a club having to get information from someone and they start getting really angry about the music and their partner notices and is a little freaked out about it, and then you slowly start to gather that, oh, my main character doesn't like jazz music, and that's going to affect their behavior whenever they're torturing someone for information. Showing and not telling. It's a very important thing to do no matter what you're doing in your writing, but especially whenever you're trying to create distinct voices. And one of the ways that I like to do this is I read what I just wrote, and I read it very carefully, and I think, okay, did I blatantly just tell someone? Did I do the equivalent of walking up and saying, "Hi, I really like sushi"? Or did I take someone out on a date and I ordered sushi and I moaned at how good it was and they just gathered, oh, this guy must really like sushi? You always want to opt for the second one. You need to blatantly straight out and say it. You do it through the actions and the reactions, the dialogue, and all of those little things that slowly compound together. And now, finally, character interaction. Character interaction is an important thing no matter what you're doing in writing, but it's especially important whenever you have multiple different perspectives. Nothing really showcases how much someone likes pizza and how much someone likes curry and how they hate each other than having them argue about it. This is a great way to bring out iconic traits for your characters and make sure that your readers know, oh yeah, these are things that my characters care strongly about for whatever reason. And this is a great way to make sure that your characters are not only constantly together, so you get a feel for them and you have to use less spotlight time on each one because they're already in each other's perspectives, so you kind of get to see them from different angles, but this also gives you a complete rounded out version of your characters. So if you have one character and you have like 3 different characters and one of them likes the other one, and they're like, okay, you get to see them from a positive viewpoint, and then another one really doesn't like them, but they have to be with them anyway to save the world or whatever. So then you get to see them from a negative light. And then you get to see the character itself from their own eyes and how they view themselves and how they view those 2 other people. It gives you a great group dynamic that you can work with. So if you have adventure stories or ones with groups which are really fun and entertaining, then this is probably one of the things that you want to do, having them interact with each other. And I personally like to do this a lot. I like to showcase the differences, especially whenever I have a protagonist and an antagonist. I like showing their interactions and carefully writing out their differences, but also showing how similar they are to each other. I also like to use the element of change and evolution over time to showcase characters change not only from them and another character, but also from their current self and their past self. And so the final thing is just to bring it all together. So those are some tips on writing distinct voices, and of course you have a bunch of stuff with dialogue and reactions and interactions, but I just wanted to give a basic video on it all and not really stress out about the specific details, just giving some general tips. Basically, next week there's not going to be a video because I'm going to be packing up and moving away from this place into a new place, so I'll be not doing a video next week. Now, also bragging about my book time. Legendland is available on barnesandnoble.com. It's also available on Nook, Amazon, paperback, and Kindle. Available on my website, www.arc-storm.com, and just a myriad of other places. If you look us up on the internet, you'll find us. And you can contact me at a lot of different places. My website, leave a comment below, or you can contact me on Facebook or Twitter. I commonly post interesting things on Twitter a lot. Facebook is more general updates. And don't forget to subscribe because you want to stay updated with all of this. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you continue to enjoy.